Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone.
Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Rue, and this is Human Potential at Work. Today, my guest is going to talk about something that is critical to all of us. It's about relationships. And have any of your relationships changed during COVID-19? How are you ready for a relationship? I think her work is really brilliant. And just the title of her, she has 6 books out, but her latest book, I love this title. Finding the One is BS, and that's the nice way to do it. I'll let her explain that. Becoming the One is brilliant and beautiful. And I think that's something that we always want to find our soul connection, our soulmate, or the person to complete us. We actually need to be the person that completes us and then take that love and send it to others. So I think her work is very important. And so and she told me before we got on how to say her name. Allana Banana. So Allana Pratt, which I appreciate that because I'm Deborah Rue, and people are like, Rue, kangaroo. And it's at least people whose brains work like mine immediately is like, okay, I got it now. I won't mess it up. But thank you for joining the program today.
Oh, Deborah, it's great to be with you. And I remember back in grade 6, don't be a banana, vote for Allana for the election. So I've, I've been saying this for a while, and I quite enjoy your kangaroo last name. And I love the depth of the conversation, the real, importance, the essential slowing down to really look at, are my relationships thriving the way I desire? And if not, instead of blaming the other, which is so fun and easy, have a look inside. Yeah.
Ooh, so powerful. And also, when we talk about relationships, a lot of times I think a lot of us think about only our love relationships, but relationships a big word. It's a
Yes.
big word, especially at a time when we are all, social distancing, hopefully staying safe. Most of us are. And we are spending more time with those people that we have relationships with.
Yes.
It's a very, very important topic. And I know that, for example, I had a interesting relationship with my mom that has transitioned,
Mm.
and I loved my mom, and I still do love my mom, but it was a very, like a lot of us, it was a very complicated relationship, partially due to my mom's struggle with mental health issues with borderline personality disorder. So sometimes I think you're right. I think it's so easy to say, well, if she would just, or he would just, when really the only thing I can control is
Mm.
how I'm responding and what I'm
Yes.
doing. And so, why are we, it seems like we do this a lot. We really look to those that we want to have a relationship with, or we're in a relationship with, and expect them really to get it right so that they can do better for us.
Yeah, yeah. One of the first mistakes I think we're making, whether that's with our beloved or our family, as you were saying, is making it their responsibility to make us happy. And it is our job to make us happy. And that lets go of that ineffective pattern of blame or criticism of another. And when you are held in contempt by another and they're just waiting for you to make the next mistake, it is like walking on eggshells. And then we shut down and we're not self expressed, or we doubt ourselves, or we silently do passive aggressive digs, or sometimes we blow up and have these cruel emasculation moments, when all along, if we could all just slow down and take the other one off the hook and have a look inside, and what is it that I need to be different, do different? What new point of view could I have on the inside so that I could make the little scared me on the inside happy, the little ashamed me on the inside happy? Maybe the sad me on the inside just needs a hug and some compassion and empathy rather than that criticism we're doing on the outside. We tend to be doing that on the inside if that's our behavior. So to put down the 2x4 that we're hitting ourselves with whenever we pipe up with a quote unquote negative emotion, what if it's not negative? What if that's just a part of us that needs listening, understanding, compassion, and some patience and a hug? You'll notice that the insides calm down, the heart opens, and then we can exude that compassion, empathy, and patience to our loved ones.
And everything you're saying, it makes so much sense. And I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
even though I'm going to say a but, it's not based on what you just said, because I agree with everything you said.
Yes.
But we don't teach human beings to do that. We don't.
No.
I think that we teach human do the opposite of that, because that seems to be, or maybe if you're lucky and you happen to get a parent or a friend that can help you, can teach you these skills. But I think most of us don't have them, and I know I struggle with this myself. My beloved husband of 38 years, I've been with him 40 years, has very serious dementia, very late stage, very
Oh,
frightening. And of course that is changing our relationship,
sure.
obviously. And I've had to have a lot of conversations with myself
Yeah.
about who is he responsible for versus what am I responsible, because I always sort of felt safe around him, for example.
Uh-huh.
Well, now it's all shifted. So relationships, they're so complicated. Then once again, you put the COVID-19
Yeah.
and you see domestic violence up, you see
Yeah.
suicides going up. And so once again, that's why I think your work is so important. And before I knew you were coming on today, and I actually went and looked at more of your work, and I thought, this, we need to elevate you to the very top and let everybody listen to what
Mhm.
you're saying, because this is true. What can we change in a relationship, especially when relationships change over time?
Yeah, thank you. The core fundamental relationship we need to all make the priority, in my opinion, is our relationship with ourself. I never learned this. I learned that my worth was on, do you approve of me? Do you agree with me? Do you want to keep me safe? Do you want to be my lover? Do you want to hire me? Like everything was outside in. And so I was very insecure on the inside. And even though I'm a cum laude grad of an Ivy League school and interviewed Whoopi Goldberg and all the books and the rest of it, that was all accomplishment based. And I misunderstood that my worth was my accomplishments. Right. And so I learned after a very difficult second marriage with the only one being in common me, and then a long 12-year custody battle, again, the only one in common me. What am I doing that's creating this life? And it was an insecurity on the inside that I didn't want to admit, didn't want to face, and didn't know how to heal. So I first became a relationship coach. And then later, I've been at this for about 15 or 20 years. Now I call myself an intimacy expert. And most people say, so you're going to help me with genital copulation? And I'm like, well, I could if you want, but really the umbrella of intimacy for me is transparency, honesty, vulnerability, that raw, real ability to keep our heart open when we're scared and stay connected to ourself and to our partner. And so, this intimate relationship that will help us through the changing of relationships, like you're saying with dementia, that'll help us through COVID, is that do we have our own back? Do we have an intimate relationship with ourselves? Do we pull away, abandon, reject ourselves when we're scared, or can we learn to turn within and define our worth from the inside out? Worth is different than accomplishments. Accomplishments come and go. Worth is, period, end of story. That's the end of the sentence. I am that I am. That's it. I am worthy of love no matter what's happening on the outside, and I deserve a hug no matter what's happening on the outside, right? And I deserve care, tenderness, listening, time for meditation, time for journaling, time for eating well, resting, time for just listening. Put a hand on your heart first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Hey, sweet thing, what have I not slowed down enough to hear? What do you want to let me know? Like, this is an intimate relationship with ourselves. And when we hear, I'm scared, we don't say to ourselves, oh, no, 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 everything's fine. Or stop it, be confident. Come on, let's do spiritual bypass and pretend we're, no, it's like, hey, you have every right to be scared. I've got you. You have every right to be very wobbly. Everything's uncertain. The date, like how you're supposed to date again, how are you supposed to go out and be with friends again? What if you've had to pivot your job and create a whole new line of, stream of income? You have every right to feel wobbly, and I got you. And I love you no matter what. Like, this relationship might sound dorky to some people to talk to yourself this way, but it's fundamental because it makes us exhale on the inside. And science says when we can come into what they call it coherence in our heart, it's a feeling of appreciation, not a thought of appreciation, a feeling of appreciation. It raises our literal, measurable harmony, love, care, kindness, empathy. And then we can imagine that that opens our heart and we radiate this out to our partner. So we walk in the room and they're not like, oh, where are those? I'm walking on eggshells again. They don't walk in, oh, the devil said she's up, whatever. These funny jokes. They're like, oh, they feel us differently and they respond differently. And we can literally change our whole world if we're willing first to slow down and have that intimate relationship with ourselves.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so true. And but I know so many people. I'm really have been working on that for a long time. I've been working on things are going to happen to us. You're going to have contrast. There, remember, Deborah, you learned the most during the most difficult times when my daughter Sarah was in the hospital for almost a year.
Oh dear.
I, it was so frightening and so scary. And I kept saying, your soul having a human experience, and her soul wants to go. I don't know. I'm just going to have to. What I was telling myself was
Yes.
maybe her soul wants to go through the experience to learn, and your soul connected. So you
Yep.
walk with her.
Yep.
But yeah, Doug in the background just said it's self parenting.
Mm,
And in the chat room, he just said that, our producer, and he's right. It's self-parenting, but I know I think of my sister, for example, that really struggles with bipolar and really self-esteem, major self-esteem problems, and even my daughter, which makes me so sad, struggles with self-esteem problems. She's a beautiful woman, 33 years old. She has Down syndrome. She has beautiful music. She's a great artist. There's so many powerful, beautiful things about her,
yes.
but society has told her often that she's not normal, she's not good enough,
Yeah.
she doesn't deserve to be in a relationship, she's a
Mm,
woman with Down syndrome. What Who would want it? It's just the human relationships are so complicated.
yeah.
So you gave us some good tips already, but what are some other ways? How do we even begin to realize that we have to take care of us? Even you were mentioning meditation, eating right. One thing I noticed during the pandemic was I wasn't drinking enough water, and
Mm,
I noticed that was affecting my moods. And
yes.
so I actually went online and said, does uh, dehydration cause depression? Because I often feel very anxious and very depressed during this pandemic. And I believe I'm joined by billions of other
Yes.
people with that.
Yes. I'll admit that I drank a lot of scotch the first couple of weeks, more than I normally do. And I realized this was a coping mechanism and I chose to be aware that I was doing it and I chose not to judge myself when I became aware. Now that's the big piece. If you remember the founder of Aikido, he was a little guy, but he could win every single fight, not because he was stronger, not because he was like this badass, but what happened was he could come back to center faster. The enemy would approach him and he would get off center, but he could come back to center faster. And if we take that into our thoughts, when we're off center, judging ourselves, oh, I wasn't drinking enough water, a little too much scotch, or whatever it was. If we don't then judge ourselves and we come back to center faster, okay, what's another choice? Coming back with compassion. So to answer your question, how can we cultivate this deeper relationship with ourselves? First, be aware that we have thoughts. If you see a thought, who's the one seeing the thought? That's you. If you have an emotion and you're aware, oh, I'm having the emotion of anger or sadness or fear right now, who's the one aware that you're having that emotion? That's the real you. Okay, so become this observer. And then once you observe, there are some things going on that we could maybe improve or evolve with. The next step is don't judge yourself. Again, remember, put down that 2x4. No more self criticism or rejection, that we are an ever evolving, perfectly imperfect being. So we don't judge. And then the next is compassion and empathy. That is like saying, hey, you're doing your best, always have and always will. And then it's that connection. I got you. And then in the oneness, the communion, the partnership on the inside, how can we make another choice? Because if you're all by yourself, lonely, and a part of you is, you know, hit by a 2x4 sitting in the dark closet and you're disassociated and wobbly, think about a tree with only one root. It's not going to stand up very well. But if you've got a lot of roots because you're taking care of your inside with compassion, it'll be like a tree with lots of roots. You'll have the strength to go, okay, I'm going to call a friend. Oh, I'm going to get up just half an hour earlier and walk around the block before the day. Okay, I'm going to get out a spiritual text, a personal growth book. I'm just going to read it for just 20 minutes in the morning. These little things, and as you said, drinking water and not as much scotch at night. This idea is all these little steps add up and they build over time. And again, it's not about perfect. It's about just doing better. If you can, like, 75, 80% of the time, be kind, be healthy, that's more than 50%. Like the Hall of Famers in baseball, there it's like 30, 36%. You get to be a Hall of Famer. Okay. So, like, don't worry if you can't do this perfectly. They aren't perfect. So even if we could just tip it over 50%, that's going to build momentum. And then the next step would be hang around with other positive, look on the bright side, do the inner work, have compassion, don't spiritually bypass or judge kind of people. And now you've got collective genius. Now you raise up with the tide. Now there's like a magic that happens. And that's, I think, really what's happening in my business right now with my group coaching. They I like to think I'm pretty smart, but at the end of calls, Deb, I say, what was the greatest value you got? Well, when Joanne said so and so, or when George said so and so. So they really are learning from one another and rising together and feeling their own leadership making a difference. Like, oh my, I'm actually an inspiration. I still feel like a hot mess. But when we're in these groups together, we really that can also raise your self-esteem and your sense of oneness through something
And
difficult like a pandemic. Yeah.
right. And I think that the at least to me, there never seems to be a time when it's more important to work with coaches. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got to find the right one. It's so easy to just put out a shingle and say, I'm a coach.
Sure.
Take the time to do your homework to find the right one.
Mm.
But I just think I have always done yoga haphazardly sometimes.
Uh-huh.
During the pandemic, I'm doing it every day. And I said, Deborah, just do 3 vinyasas in the morning and at night. That's all you have to do.
Right.
You can do that in 2 seconds. And then of course, when I get there and I start doing it and it feels so good, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then I do more. But I think, setting realistic goals right now are important in it. They're not like they were before the pandemic. I don't think the world obviously is not going to be the same after we walk all the way through this. A
Yeah.
friend of mine said that Mother Earth put us in timeout so we can think about what we've been doing. And I
Yes.
thought, yeah, I thought that was very accurate. But
Yeah.
I have been somebody that has followed spiritual teachings, and I was sad as a child that I could not make my mom happy. I
Mm.
just wanted so much to make my mom happy, as
Yeah.
some kids are like, a lot of kids are like that. And so I started seeking very early, but then I almost felt like, especially during the pandemic, it felt like I almost was seeking too much, and I
Mm.
wasn't taking the time to come back and say, all right, how do you apply this to Deborah and the intensity that you're walking? Because right now, I don't think everybody's walking intensity. I
Yeah.
mean, I can tell you how sad my walk is and what I'm dealing with, and how I just try to focus on sometimes just putting one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
But I think being kinder to each other, I liked that point that you made. I mean, you just don't know what people are dealing with when they are a little too aggressive with their shopping cart, or you're driving, or whatever it
Yeah.
is. So we need to be kind, so much kind. I think if we could all be kinder to ourselves, it
Yes.
would allow us to be kinder to other
Oh,
people at the same
yes.
time.
You're so right. I love this idea of the timeout. And so I believe in society, like I said before, miswired with all of our worth and safety on the outside. I'm safe if I can do such and such. I'm good enough if they agree with me, all this outside in. But the COVID is a gift in that we can slow down and start to balance ourselves out. There's nothing wrong with being a driven person and accomplishing. That's awesome. Like I've written 6 books, not one. I like to accomplish. I like to give. And yet if it's out of balance, I will be out of balance. My behaviors will be out of balance and my relationships will be out of balance. So, using this time to come in and finding kindness on the inside, safety on the inside, approval on the inside. And so we don't need it so much on the outside that we can feel full, balanced, have these moments of oneness with the divine on the inside, going into nature and being oh, there's so much abundance. Look at all the leaves on one tree. Like, let that touch you. Let that move you. Let a sunset blast your heart open. Let it penetrate you and fill those areas inside your body that feel lonely and out of control. Like, there's so many ways to be in partnership with the divine or nature, so you can feel home, safe and secure on the inside and rest. And that allows all the hormones to be in their happy place. And that allows the vibration to be in its risen place. So then, yes, as you go out on the freeway or in the grocery aisle, you are the embodiment of compassion itself, or blessings itself. That ho'oponopono, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. Be the embodiment of that. And if enough of us do that, and we have each other's back in community, that we can be this, I think literally we can be better. Although it might sound like airy fairy, I don't know. I think we can be better than COVID. And even the kids, a lot of the parents that I coach are like, oh, this homeschooling, and they don't have all the time to be with their friends. And that is true. But the other half of the side of the coin is true too. They're not put in, first they go to school, then they go to this practice, then they go to this practice, then they got to do their homework, then they better do, like, they're not as pressured to be good enough to get their 4.3 whatever to get into this. Chill out, people. Go play in the dirt with the bugs. Like, let's just like relax a bit. And so these kids are getting to learn self-soothing, if their parents are awake enough to help them, at an early age, rather than after the porn addiction, opioid addiction, or whatever is going on later in life. What a gift to teach a child true balance, true inner self soothing, true relationship with the little you inside the little you at an early age. What if they're way ahead of all of us by the time they become a young adult, and they will take over this world, perhaps better than all of us have done?
Right, right, because they're going to be more empathetic and compassionate.
Yes,
Well,
that's what's possible.
right. So, what do you advise to people like my daughter that were born different, and society tells her she's not good enough? And when I say that, and I'm going to just ground that,
Yep.
because we know this is true,
Yep.
but she's told she's not good enough when leaders say, another leader, there were Ann Coulter said that Hillary Clinton, when she was looking up at the balloons coming down, looked like she had Down syndrome. The worst insult
Mm.
and Coulter could think to give to another woman, which right there, I have a big old problem with that. I think
Yep.
women need to be supportive of each other, but
Yep.
was to say that she looked like my daughter, which, by the way, I think my daughter's beautiful. And
Thank you.
so, but I'm a parent, right? So it's like, yeah, yeah. But what do you do when society keeps telling you that you're broken? And we do this in so many different ways. We do this with brown and black. We
Yes.
do it, if Lord forbid you love the same sex, what's wrong with you?
Yes.
We do it in so many ways. Oh, you have cerebral palsy. Well, oh, you're blind. I'd rather be dead than be blind. That's
I
what somebody said to a
sure.
friend, I mean Jasmine, that works for us, that's blind. What do you think that, do you think that's a helpful comment?
Well,
It's not.
clearly not.
Sorry. And
Yeah,
right. And
clearly.
I know I'm throwing big, big, big things at you, but
Oh, I love it. I
I,
love it.
I
Don't
think,
worry.
yeah, or if I struggle with mental illness and depression and anxiety, I do. I personally think we all do,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
okay, so I do. I know my sisters do. Oh,
absolutely. And don't worry, I'm in the fetal position from time to time, just sobbing, right? Like, this is just called being a human. I choose to be a vulnerable, credible human that shows up and shows all of my wobbly parts, and isn't ashamed of my grandeur either. So here's my point of view. I believe brave old souls chose to come to this effed up planet as a Down syndrome, as an autistic child, as a disability, as a person of color, all these ways to wake the rest of us up. I really do. I do not think they are weak, broken, poor them, pity them whatsoever. I think they're warriors of the light. I think they chose it on purpose. I think they have the capacities to weather all of this and shine with an open heart in the face of anything, here to teach the rest of us. That's why I have a dating app called Heartmates, heartmates.app, and it's inclusive of all gender orientation, sexual orientations, color of skin, seeming disabilities is the way I write it in my copy. And this is because love is love, and we are all one. And I believe that the people that are quote unquote the edge fringe dwellers, what you want to call us, the strange ones. We're really the most awake ones. I think the autistic kids are behaving appropriately for the level of, checked outness that's going on the planet. They're here to wake us up. So my point of view is not to focus on all of the unconscious comments that are coming from unconscious people who have no interest in waking up anyways, and instead focus on those that are the warriors of the light and go, hey, just like me, stop looking from the outside in to define your worth. Knock it off. You're a brave old soul. Start defining your worth from the inside out in the face of anything. And while I have no idea what it's like to be disabled or a woman of color or or lesbian or anything like this, what I have had a taste of is 12 years of a custody battle where I was made wrong as an intimacy expert. Oh, she's probably a prostitute sleeping with all of her clients. Oh, she doesn't have a PhD. She's some coach. She's probably an extreme narcissist who's full of herself. Like they just went for every jugular they could. And it was my kid on the line. And I went from having 50-50 custody to having to earn back overnights. And it was all based on making me wrong. And back then, Deb, I was so still a little bit wobbly on the inside, trying to justify my worth. No, I'm here to allow people to see the sacredness in sexuality, that we're not supposed to do human trafficking. That's not okay. Right. So I'm here to bring light to this industry. And I don't believe that just because you know a lot in a book makes you a good coach. I'm amazing. I change people's lives. I put cancers into remission. I save marriages. I have people that are going to kill themselves now rock their lives. I'm good enough. But I wasn't so sure of that back then. So the gift in being humiliated, the gift in the state of California saying I'm not a good enough mother doesn't matter. I know I am a great mother. I don't care about the amount of custody that the state deemed I'm worthy of. I'm worthy of infinite joy and possibility, as all of us are. So that was my journey to go, I'm not going to define my worth from the outside in anymore. I'm choosing to define it from the inside out and get up under everyone I work with to do the same. So anybody listening with disabilities, just talk to the hand. Like whatever anybody's saying, talk to the hand and talk to yourself and honor the brave soul that you are, choosing to come as you are now to wake up the planet. And personally, I'm so grateful you're here.
Oh, wow. I love listening to you talk. My goodness, you are so, we need you so bad in the world. I'm so glad you're here. And I, that's fascinating. You know, it's just, you brought up so many good points. I don't even know where to begin, but it, and that's why I just am really glad that you came on the show, and I'm hoping you will come back
Oh,
on
I'd
the
love
show
to.
again, because I don't think we're having enough of these conversations.
Yeah.
I think instead, you know, when I look at my daughter with Down syndrome, and I created all my work because of her, because
Yes.
she inspires me so much, but she just didn't even, she didn't see that. She sees instead that she wasn't invited to the same amount of parties. It's just interesting what she sees. And also she's always seeing on television different, you know, and that's another thing I think that we struggle with, those of us that love other human beings. You know, how do we help them navigate way through all this in times of such extremes, you know,
Mm.
such polarizations, you know, of the fake news, the nastiness that our leaders. I loved when that young girl asked, "Well, how are we supposed? Why are we expected to behave when the leaders are yelling horrible things to each other?" You
Yeah.
know, and they're grabbing, I mean, they're coming behind them and they're interrupting each other. And I'm confused how we as children are supposed to act when you adults are not acting that way. But they're so
Brilliant.
contradictory right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right or wrong. I feed my soul what uplifts me. And watching temper tantrums happen at a country presidential level, sorry, no, or all of the riots or the name calling, no. I know that I'm a science geek. I like to interview a lot of quantum physicists on my podcast, Intimate Conversations, as well as relationship experts, etc. And I know that my vibration can impact the world. It's like the butterfly effect, right? On the other side of the world, my vibration actually makes a difference. So science says that we only see 0.01% of the world matter. Not 1%, 0.01%. 99.9% of this world we live in is unseen energy. We can influence that. And so when I have my awesome science backup here, when I'm like, okay, so if I can influence the 99.9% by being kindness just to myself today, just being kindness to my loved ones today, just focusing on what's right about this and the gift in this. Like your daughter, what's right about not being invited to the party? I have to learn self-worth, self-esteem, self-empathy. I have to give empathy and compassion to others who are afraid of differences, right? My mom was an ESL teacher. So she taught me from a very young age to lean into diversity and to be curious about others, and that different people's houses smell different because they use different spices in their food, and to be curious about that. So I was so blessed that she taught me to welcome with an open arm diversity. I much prefer everybody being different than everybody being the same. That makes me feel more comfortable, like a big soup. And so these are all opportunities. We get to choose. All of us are sovereign beings. We get to choose what's wrong about this or right about this. And if you want to keep focusing on what's wrong about this, your life is going to be a low vibration of depression and suffering. And so instead of that, lean into the pain. I can't make the pain go away because those people were mean. They said mean things. I was sobbing the other day because somebody was really mean to me, and I live with an open heart. I'm like, ow, that really hurt. And yet I choose to live with an open heart, not a closed heart, and soothe myself when I need a hug and call a friend when I'm sobbing. And once I get through that, go, okay, and what's right about this? What's the gift in this? Not spiritual bypass and push away the pain. Feel the pain, honor the pain, hug the pain, hug it out, right? Love this part of you that needs a hug. They have every right to be hurt. They were mean. That's true. I choose not to be like that or teach my son to be like that. Okay. And I'm not going to be a victim. So sorry, not going to be a victim of your opinion of me. Sorry, I'm in charge of my life. I'm in charge of my opinion of who I am. What's right about this? Oh, I need to learn to define myself from the inside out in the face of anything. Got it. Whew, that's a big one, but I guess I took that on as my life purpose or my mission this round. Okay, I got this. And I'm going to hang around with other people that believe the same, so I'm not alone, because that helps. And we lock arms. And the power of few, Margaret Mead. Well, I will butcher the quote, but something it'll take a few to change the world, and it always has. It's only been a few, and that's the science. It doesn't take a lot to shift the planet. So if enough of us don't worry,
51%.
yeah,
Right. Doesn't have to be 51%.
no, you're so right. And so be willing to be that, and let that be enough, and rest in the 99% rather than focusing on the 0.01%. And I'm sorry, it is hard, and it's not fair, and it's how it is. And so let's be in acceptance of that and allowance of that, and shine.
Oh, so such beauty. There's such beauty in your comments, and that's why you're a good coach. So I definitely highly recommend you getting involved with her work.
Thank you.
But one thing that I'm also seeing is that we, as we're trying to do the inner work that you're talking about,
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and we're talking about this more as society, we're talking about this more, but I think we need to talk about this topic I'm about to say much more, because we make a mistake sometimes looking at somebody's Instagram feed, their IG or their Twitter or whatever, their Twitch, where, and their lives look so perfect, and it's so much more perfect than yours. And so I think we're struggling with that. And also, you were talking about what someone else thinks about you. I love the quotes where people are saying, what somebody else thinks about you is none of your business. Now, it doesn't mean that's right. It's none of your business, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I love how you acknowledge, because I think in my spiritual seeking over the years, and this sort of had to shift, especially with my husband's dementia in the pandemic. But I've really grown so much during this pandemic. I've changed a lot. But I think that a mistake, first of all, we look at others and think they got it nailed. They don't have the trials and tribulations we do. Nope, that's not true. They're just showing, So I think that confuses people. But I also think people are confused about whether I think I was pushing the bad away.
Mm.
There was this, I can't remember this. There was a cartoon with dinosaurs that my kids used to watch years ago. And one of the little kids would put their hand and she'd say, let no bad happen, let no bad happen. It felt like me. It's like, I
Mm.
only want to look at the positive. I don't want to look at any negative. Well, you can't do that. That's
No.
spiritual laziness, Deborah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we navigate that, and how do we, and I'll make one more comment.
Mm.
Marianne Williamson, I once heard her say to this woman, she was like, well, I was devastated, and so I went and I got some prescription medication to help me through it, which, by the way, no judgment there. And she said, otherwise I was going to be in my bed for like 2 weeks and crying.
Mm.
And Marianne said, so what's wrong with being in your bed for 2 weeks and crying? This is a devastating thing that you went through.
Yes.
And so we can try to mask it with our scotch, our pot, our prescriptions, our being too busy to pay attention.
Yes. Yeah. None of that works. It's I call it sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone of crap. Yeah, it's not going
None
it's
of that works.
short-term relief, long-term hell is where that's going to go. So yes, Marianne, I totally believe. So one at a time, what you said, if I can remember, the social media. Social media isn't good, isn't bad. It's just how we use it. And so I use my social media to be vulnerable, honest. My last newsletter that I sent out with a video in it, I just put a picture of my parents and then I said, let me tell you a story. And it was a video. And I shared how my coach, because I'm a great coach, but I can't see my blind spots to save my life. So I have like 3 coaches actually. And we went through and I've done all the work on my parents. Oh my God, I've done the work on my parents, but there was another layer that was there. So I shared vulnerably from the point of view of my dad and the point of view of my mom. I never looked at their point of view. I only looked at my point of view, poor me, right? I didn't have the compassion or empathy. So I shared that. So same with social media. I share what's real. When I have a win, I share a win. When I have a wobbly, I share a wobbly. When I have a question, I'm willing to ask. When I have some wisdom, I'm willing to share. So we can use our social media not to compare ourselves to people that don't have the courage yet to be authentic. And they, again, they are caught up in, I'm good enough if I look good, and they haven't come to terms with that I'm not perfect, I'm perfectly imperfect. They're not there yet. Don't judge them, but don't use your energy to engage with them either. It's comparing apples and oranges. So let that go. Bless them on their journey. And you use your social media for what will uplift you and uplift the ones that you want to be in connection with. And you can block or just not follow those that don't uplift you. Nobody's making you follow people that make you feel bad. So stop it, unfollow them. Okay. So that's the social media conversation. And what was the other part? The confusion of help me again, what were you saying? How to be with
Well,
what?
yeah, learning to really be there and be present even during the real dark times.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
It's, yeah,
So
I'm going to cry for weeks in my bed
right.
because I just lost my husband.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
We have deemed, society in general have deemed happy good, sad bad, pleasure good, pain bad. And yet that's what keeps us on the addictive roller coaster of, oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so depressed, right? Not that I want people to flatline, be dead, but there's more of a rippling wave when there aren't the extremes. And it's a sustainable joy that has nothing to do with circumstances. That's the result. The how you get there is by going, okay, life is equal pleasure and pain. I remember the day my mom died. And in that moment, looking at her dead body, going, oh my God, she's not asleep. She's actually not in there. Where is she? And looking around, and she was everywhere. And I just kept my heart open with the pain. I'd never felt a pain like that because of all
yeah.
of my family members. She's the one that saw me. And now she's gone. But then I realized, oh my God, she's everywhere. And in one split moment, Deb, I had 2 feelings: the most pain I've ever felt and the most pleasure because she was free, out of pain of the cancer, and she was everywhere with me all the time. So I held the spectrum of pain and pleasure in one moment, and I felt bliss, oneness with God, I guess we could call it. Okay. 9 months later, because the weekend after was my sister's wedding, and we all decided to get drunk and pretend she was on vacation just to get through it, I got pregnant. And so 9 months later, there I am giving birth to my baby boy. And I'm looking in his eyes, and it is a pleasure that I've never experienced in my life, mixed with instantly later, oh my God, how do I keep him alive? I don't know how to do this. So in that one moment, again, was the whole spectrum: total love and total fear all at once. Why? Because I learned to breathe and keep my heart open and not shut it down and with the antidepressants rather than be in bed for 2 weeks, right? Because I opened to all the intensity. And the very same moment happened, Deb. It was that moment of bliss oneness with God. And I went, oh my God. And I saw the shape of a heart. And I saw the path of pain or the path of bliss, if you keep your heart open, takes you home to the divine. Oh my God, heart open in anything is the key. Embrace the pain and the gift of it. And the pleasure is momentary. So savor it, but don't grasp it. Like this is the gift that I teach, that I live, that is not easy, that we're not supposed to get perfect, but this is how. So yeah, if you need to call a friend, if you need to take a week off work, if you need to ask for help from like a coach, ask, because there's nothing wrong with being human and having emotions. They are the portal, I promise you, to the divine if you keep your heart open.
So you teach humans to be humans.
Thank you. That's not in my marketing material, but I might use that line. Thank you. I do.
Because we
Yeah.
don't know how. We
No.
don't know how. And then if we're humans that society decides are not good enough because we're blind, we're whatever,
Right.
that we have curly hair, we have really you're going to put purple, whatever. But I could keep you on air for days. I love your work, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
really do want you to come back on the show. But
Oh,
more importantly than that, I want my guest, I want my audience to know how to find out about your work, how to
thank
find out about your coaching, your books, your what you're doing, because I have a feeling your light is going to speak to my audience. So
oh,
tell
thank
us how to follow you, how to learn
you.
about your work, how to get involved with your coaching, how to buy your books.
Thank you.
So,
I'm so touched. Thank you so much. So my name is Allana Pratt, and that's my website. So it's spelled with two L's, ALLANAPRATT.com. There's a lot of free gifts. There's an intimacy blind spot quiz. There's all my books there, or you can find them on Amazon as well. So that's like that layer. Intimate Conversations is my podcast. YouTube with my name. There's like so many videos where I answer people's questions every single week. There's that. And then there's the Heartmates dating app. If you're somebody single that is committed to not just from emptiness, finding the one, this is where we have a dating app and an intimacy training rolled into one. So we become the one to find the one. And then once you found the one, we have Heartmates for couples so that you can keep the one. So there's those two different Heartmates programs there. And then, yes, if you're interested in more of a deeper dive with me with group coaching or intimacy, I have an inner circle coaching or a VIP if your marriage really needs that deep dive, that intervention to keep it together. You simply go to allanapratt.com/connect. And that way you connect with my intimacy success advisor. She's also an Allana Pratt method coach, trained certified coach. She's amazing. And she'll be able to really help you discover what's the blind spot in the way of where you want to be. And then she'll recommend the right program for you. And it would be amazing that if you heard me on this show with Deborah and all the way came into my loving arms, my loving heart with coaching, it would be an absolute privilege and honor to take you home.
and also, do you work with people outside the United States?
Oh, yes. All
Yeah,
over. My
because a
clients
lot
are
of my
global.
viewers are outside the US.
Mhm.
I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure.
Yeah, my clients are from all over the world. I speak English. I'm sorry. So you have to be able to speak English. But other than that, my clients are everywhere. Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we get all the links so
Great.
that you can find her. And 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 once again, please, I'd like you to come back on the show again.
I
I
would be honored.
love your work. I love your work.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for adding light, especially during these intense, beautiful times. I want to make one more comment on
Yes.
air, but you were talking about the beauty that souls bring that come with autism.
Yes.
And I think of Greta Thunberg,
Yeah.
she's changing the world with the
Yes.
climate strike and the climate action. And when people were making fun of her for having autism, she said, "That's my superpower."
Thank
Yeah.
you. Shivers. Yeah,
Yes.
totally. It
Get out
is.
of my way. I'm too busy fixing things to hear that I'm broken and I can't fix things. So why don't you just go away
Step
and let
aside.
me go do what I need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I so
So
love that. And I so love the theme of your show and your beautiful journey. And I send you so much love and compassion. And you are a warrior of the light as well. So thank you. We've met
yeah,
Soul Tribe today. So it's
I
really
agree. I agree. And I can't wait for us to talk again. So
same.
thank you so much. We're going to provide all of our information. Please do, if you reach out to her or her assistants, let them know that you heard it on Human Potential at Work. We always think that's great, but it doesn't really matter. It's more important that we all go get some help to learn how to be better human beings, especially right now. We got a lot of work to do. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show. And thanks to my audience too.
Much love.